Hey guys, how's it going? It's GS Luke back for our live stream on Wednesday night, where we're going to be going over some of the changes for this week that we've seen throughout the week in terms of weather, any player pool changes. Of course, we'll be going through all of our Patreon projections, all the players I'll be including in my player pool for this week, and any questions and answers that you guys have throughout the entire process. So sit back, perhaps you're making your lineups right now, constructing them. We'll go ahead and do that together. And again, if you have any questions at any point, just feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll get to them as soon as possible, guys. So kicking it off with our player poll, let me go ahead and share my screen here for you guys. So go ahead and click that there. And again, these are my Patreon projections. If you guys want access to these at any point, access to projections for every player in every field that I cover for the PGA Tour, link is going to be in the description of this live stream, especially if you guys are watching after the fact. Again, it's just $1 for the month. You get access to every player in the field, exactly what you're seeing right here. Early on in the week, you also get access to my custom model rankings, the Discord server, all that kind of stuff. With the plugs out of the way, let's hop into the player poll for this week. So up top, we have Patrick Cantley. Obviously not in my player pool. You can see that over here. We have him down as a no. It was also a fade in my video from earlier on this week. If we take a look at last year's Draftkings contest, specifically for the Tour Championship, you can see exactly why he's a fade. Dustin Johnson was coming in a very similar situation, went out and shot 12 under par, winning the Tour Championship, which is great. But at the same time, he didn't crack the optimal lineup. He didn't make nearly enough birdies last year, and the 30 points to first in terms of placement points wasn't enough to pay off his insane price tag. So at $13,400, I'm betting that Patrick Cantley doesn't go and storm the field, shoot 15, 16 under par, and that's why he's a fade for me. We can see John Rahm at 13 grand is a play for me. A lot of it is due to ownership. So right now I have them just separated by over a little under 2.5% ownership. In reality, I think Patrick Cantley is going to come in a lot higher owned. Earlier on in the week, I had Cantley upwards of 40% ownership. You can see that's been tempered down a little bit here, down to 29%. But either way, still one of the higher owned plays on the entire slate. And somebody that I won't be playing. The reason why I like John Rahm is it's completely skill set fit, right? John Rahm, a much better ball striker than Patrick Cantley. John Rahm, also one of the best off the tee players in the entire world. When we take a look at the correlation models and what stats really stick here at Eastlake, off the tee is a top 10 stat on the entire world in terms of golf courses. And then we take a look at approach play. That's also top 10. It's number 7 out of 56 on tour in terms of the correlation modeling that I use. So John Rahm, fits both of those boxes. And we take a look at Patrick Cantley's game, especially last week. He wasn't striping it at all. He was somebody who lost strokes from tee to green, gained 14 strokes putting, which is a PGA Tour record, at least a shot length record. Somebody may have done better back in the day before we had the lasers and whatnot. But ever since we implemented those, by far the best performance we've seen on the greens. So he's definitely due for some regression. On the other end, John Rahm hardly gained putting last week. Somebody who was doing very good from tee to green. So I think they could very well swap places. So that's why you see one as a play and one as a fade. Bryson's a fade for me. Again, you would have seen that in my fades video earlier on this week. He hasn't played well when he's been at Eastlake before. Somebody who seemingly has a very good skill set for the course, very good off the tee, can be decent with his approach play at the very least. But we've heard him say in the past, direct quotes of him saying that this golf course takes away his length. He has to club down a lot of the times. The dog legs don't allow to hit over the trees, that kind of thing. So Bryson DeChambeau just doesn't, it's not a good course for him. They say horses for courses. It's probably the opposite here for Bryson DeChambeau. Another reason he doesn't excel here is the Bermuda grass surface. It's by far his worst putting splits are on Bermuda. So not a surprise to see him struggle a little bit here at the Tour Championship, which is, in my opinion, a little bit unfair, right? So this is something, maybe for another video, but I want to mention it right now. I don't think the Tour Championship should be played at the same course every year. Doing so rewards the same type of players year after year. Obviously, Kevin Kisner can go out and win the Tour Championship, but he's going to have a much lower percentage odds than somebody like Rory McIlroy. Obviously, this golf course is relatively long. It's a par 70. It can play soft as well. So somebody like Kevin Kisner, when they make the Tour Championship, he obviously didn't this year, never really has a shot to win it, which in my opinion is a little bit unfair. Again, I don't want to get too sidetracked with that kind of stuff, but yeah, that's why, Bryson DeChambeau, I don't like him this week, and maybe they should change that going into the future. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any strong opinions on that. I don't think it really is fair to have it at the same course every year. Adding some variety would add in some new champions and would give everyone a fair chance. Tony Finau. So other than Jon Rahm, he's the main guy I'm playing up top this week. So starting at 8 under par, obviously only 2 behind Patrick Cantley, you're getting over $1,600 in salary dollars. Sorry, $1,600 in relief in terms of salary going from Cantley down to Finau. So that's a huge deal. You're able to build a much more balanced lineup starting with somebody like Tony Finau. So as a result, I'm seeing myself go there 100% of the time this week. And sorry, I'm not playing Tony Finau on 100% of the lineups, but I'm switching from Cantley to Finau on 100% of my lineups. I definitely like his skill set as well. Obviously, has been on a tear with the ball striking. The putting numbers have been up as well of late. So don't hate anything about Tony Finau. At first, he wasn't going to make my player pool, but I'm able to squeeze in Jon Rahm and Tony Finau into lineups together. So he ended up making a few of my lineups. Dustin Johnson, somebody I'm extremely interested in playing this week. So we take a look at his performance at last year's Northern Trust. You're going to see exactly why I like playing him. Went out and shot 30 under par. Obviously, this golf course is a lot more difficult than TPC Boston. Obviously, the scores aren't out there for 30 under par, but he's somebody who can go out and lead a field by 4 or 5 strokes very easily. Jon Rahm did it earlier this year at the Memorial, but other than that, we haven't seen that since TPC Boston and when Dustin Johnson went out and ransacked the field. So there's only a couple of players that are actually capable of doing that in the world. Jordan Spieth's one of them. Dustin Johnson's one of them. So is Justin Thomas if he finds the putter, and of course Jon Rahm. So Dustin Johnson, a play for me this week. Just spoke about another one of these guys, Jordan Spieth, right? He's a play for the same reason. Very high birdie or better percentage player, has excellent history at Eastlake. Obviously took down the Tour Championship one year. So with him and DJ, they're the guys that are starting a little bit further back in the pack this week that I'm playing in hopes of a very good weekend. Something to mention as well is that most weeks with the Tour Championship, you're not really looking for guys to come back from very far in the pack. It's a golf course where the winning score in terms of a raw score is typically 10 to 12 under par, but this time out, it's extremely soft. So we're going to talk about the weather right now, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. But the weather at Eastlake all week has been extremely wet. They had Hurricane Ida come through, obviously a little bit more west than Atlanta, but those rain bands extended the whole way out to the east coast of Georgia. So ended up getting a lot of rain there at Atlanta on Monday and especially yesterday. Now today, a lot of that rain has moved through. It was completely sunny there all day today. So if they had the sub airs on, if they weren't watering the grass at all, other than the rain that came through naturally, it could look like a normal year. But typically, they're still going to water it a little bit. There's still going to be the dew and the humidity in the air to keep it soft. So I look for scores this year to be a little bit better than usual. Just like at Caves Valley, guys, that was a golf course with a lot of teeth. I mean, you heard the announcers talking about it. It was just a freak instance of it being that soft, them able to throw darts like that. This time at Eastlake, I'm looking for someone to shoot 16, maybe 17 under par in terms of a raw score. I think that's definitely possible. I think more likely is probably around 14, 15 under par, but it's definitely out there. Like somebody like Dustin Johnson, somebody like Jordan Spieth is more than capable of going out and posting a score like that. And given their starting strokes of 2 under par, 3 under par, they could win the entire golf tournament. So more than most years, I think that the entire field is in play this year. So you're going to see me playing a lot of these guys in the $10,000 range or even this $9,000 range here. So Abraham Answer, somebody I also think can come back from behind. He's my model's number 1 ranked play if I take a look at short-term form. So in short-term form, I'm looking at more of a 4 tournament basis. Typically for a lot of my analysis, I look at the last 7 events. That way you're able to get some recent form in there. You're also able to get more of a historical baseline as well, while not looking at a whole season's of work. Because if you take a look at someone's numbers over the 2020 season or 2021 season, there's way too much of a sample size in there. Guys go on hot streaks, guys go on cold streaks. They lose parts of their game. So you have to make sure you're looking at the right amount of rounds. But when we take a look at a shorter time span, Abraham Answer absolutely pops. I mean, he's absolutely peaking at the right time. Won at Memphis. I mean, that's a big reason for those numbers, but hits the ball straight, is a high birdie percentage player as well. So really do like Abraham Answer. Wasn't somebody I wrote up in any of my articles this week, but he's going to be making my GPP pool. He's not going to be in my core or anything like that. He's not going to be in my big time cash games, but Abraham Answer, I think he has more than enough ability to go out and crack that top 5 this week. So that's why he's in my pool. With Rory McIlroy and Xander, I'm going to lump these 2 guys together. You can see in terms of my model ranking, you have Rory at number 8, you have Xander at number 6. So they're ranking out very similarly. They're coming in around the same projected ownership as well. right around the low 20s. And both of them hits the ball extremely straight. They also have a lot more length than people give them credit for. I mean, everyone gives Rory the credit for that, so I shouldn't really say that. Xander's a little bit longer than people give him credit for. And they're also been very good with their irons of late. Both of them have found something. I mean, we saw Xander last week gaining over 3 strokes with his irons. We haven't seen that for over a month. Rory McIlroy has been good for about a month now. I mean, had a bad week right there in the middle of the before the Northern Trust, but definitely like the way that he's trending. I mean, last week finishing 4th place. I don't think many people saw that coming other than myself. I ended up playing him in that in my player pool last week. I do not hate going back to him here either. Sam Burns, somebody who's grown on me a ton. I was taking a look at some other content creators, and they were kind of throwing Sam Burns under the bus. He's priced up here $8,500. He's got guys like Colin Morkalla priced around him, guys like Xander Schauffele. The truth here is that Sam Burns has been one of, if not the best player in 2021. He has 4 top 5s without a win. He also has 2 wins this year. Sam Burns, absolute stud, right? I saw him in person down at the Valspar when he ended up taking down that golf tournament. And the kid, when he has his irons on, when he's ball striking, there's no better in the game. I'm truly saying that. I mean, he looks like Colin Morikawa, sticking shots to 5-6 feet pretty much in every single hole. And last week I faded him. I was completely wrong about Sam Burns. Somebody I thought that the moment might have been a little bit too big for him. He's obviously very young. This is his first time really making a splash in the playoffs by any means. So for him to go out and impress like that, really turning the tide for me in terms of how I'm looking at him as a player. I used to think that maybe this was just his year. I mean, he had found something with his swing, but to show that kind of mental fortitude, to show the kind of consistency that he has this year, I'm really starting to become a believer in Sam Burns. So even at 22.5% ownership, he's definitely not being overlooked. Getting a fair amount of ownership there, but I think it's well warranted. Going down to Colin Morikawa, he's been a fade for quite a few weeks now, to be honest with you. Somebody who I definitely don't like because of the back, right? The back's been an issue. He's said it to the media quite a few weeks back. He heard it at the Olympics. The issue with Colin Morikawa is now we're starting to hear that his back, quote unquote, feels great. And you won't ever get a name for that source, right? So you'll always hear people throw that around that, oh, I hear that he feels great. I've yet to actually hear someone, man up or ball up and mention a source. So I'd play caution with that, right? Until I hear it from Colin, I'm not going to believe it. The fact is his swing looks horrible. His metrics last week were just as bad as they were at the Northern Trust, just as bad as we saw prior at the last round at the Olympics. I'm going to wait and see, right? Until all of his interviews this week, he hasn't really said much about it. He's been kind of hush about it. Kai said he's still working through it. The swing hasn't been there. He's kind of deferred to the swing anytime it's been brought up. But I have a feeling that back is still bothering him. And regardless, the game hasn't looked good statistically. And I'm someone that looks at the stats. So he's going to be a fade. Let's get on to this next range, guys. This is going to be where I play it in an obscene amount of ownership. So Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, Louis Oosthuizen. I'm going to have 2 of these guys in every lineup that I play, especially in my big game cash stuff. All 3 of them are absolute ball strikers. They're completely mispriced. These guys could be in the mid $9,000 range, and they would still be right around the same amount of ownership. And believe it or not, Brooks Koepka is coming in as the lowest owned of the 3. That I do not understand, guys. People love playing Brooks Koepka. Perhaps they think that he's going to check out this week, that he has nothing to play for. But guys, the difference between someone finishing like 28th this week, straight around 350, 400 grand, and someone finishing like 10th or 15th place is almost $500,000. Even Brooks Koepka is not too big for that. Even he's not too macho to take $500,000 home. I mean, Jesus Christ, guys, right? It's $500,000. That's a lot of money to anyone. So I think Brooks Koepka, statistics based, it looks great this week. And that's what I base my analysis on. I try to take the narrative out of it. I try to take a lot of those external factors out of it. And I try to take a look at what's actually happening on the golf course. Same thing with Colin Morikawa, right? Like the narrative right now is that his back feels great. I don't see that. I mean, he really should have lied, even if it is feeling great. He played so bad that last week, like, why even say it feels good? I mean, you played like shit. So that's all I got to say about that. Brooks Koepka, the same kind of thing, right? Like to put this narrative on him, like he doesn't care. I'm not going to be there, right? Sure. I think the only narrative that you can put around Brooks and reliably say is that he plays well at majors. because statistically, he's the best player in the world at major championships, aside from Tiger Woods, right? When he's playing right now without Tiger Woods, is the highest winning percentage at majors. So that's not a narrative. That's stone cold facts. So make sure that you guys are checking yourself sometimes with that kind of stuff, especially if you're hearing it from other sources. Just rely on the facts. That's always going to be the best thing to do. Sungjae Im, guys, he's a fade for me, but to be quite honest with you, he's probably the most dangerous fade in the entire field. I feel much more comfortable fading Cantley, much more comfortable fading JT. Same thing with Bryson, but with Sungjae, I do have a bad feeling about it just because he's coming in with such great form, has been trending upwards for about a month now. The issue I have with Sungjae is what we saw beforehand. You know, he went 3 or 4 months where he didn't really look like himself. He wasn't able to hit his irons very well. You know, he'd gain 1 week, lose the other. He'd gain strokes off the tee 1 week, lose strokes off the tee the next. For him to be upwards of 23% owned, he's being touted by almost everyone in the industry right now. So Sungjae Im, I expect to come in closer to maybe 28, 30% ownership. So he's a fade for me. Again, I don't feel great about it. He's definitely coming in with good form, and I wouldn't knock you for playing him. Let's just say that. Scotty Shuffler at $6,800, by far my favorite value play in the entire slate. He's going to be by far the highest owned player I have this far down the board. Somebody who came out, absolutely dismantled East Lake, has a great off the tee game, has been gaining 0.66 shots gained off the tee over his last 24 rounds. Don't tell me how I remember that off the top of my head, but he is absolute stud. Do not hate anything about Scotty Scheffler's game at all. The only knock you could put on him is that he's not a great Bermuda putter, but he's not a great putter on any surface. So not necessarily what you're looking for in Scotty Shuffler. You know, he's going to do it with the ball striking. And at East Lake, that's the way to get it done. So one of my favorite plays down low, if not my favorite. Hideki is the next guy I want to talk about. You know, has a very similar game to Scotty Shuffler, except he hasn't been quite as good as late. Again, losing almost nearly a stroke per round putting. So Hideki Matsuyama, you know, he's going to have to start to make some putts to really move himself up the board, but has the kind of ball striking pedigree that you're looking for at this golf course. Same thing with Corey Connors, right? Great off the tee play, great approach play as well. What you're looking for with both of those. The only issue with Corey Connors definitely has to be the ownership. I expected him to be coming in closer to 12, 13% ownership at the beginning of the week. Now that he's up to 19%, you know, closer to Hideki Matsuyama. If I had to put them on a one-on-one, you know, I say Hideki wins that head-to-head matchup about 65-35% of the time. So the fact that they're priced so close together and the ownership so close, I don't love it. But in GPPs, we're going to have to play as many people as we can. Again, we only have 30 people to choose from. So he made the pull to add some differentiation so I can make all 150 lineups this week. I'm going down to Daniel Berger, also another value play I really like. The ownership is not great. But when I play Daniel Berger, I'm just going to make sure I'm extra careful when constructing my lineup. I'm going to make sure that I'm playing a non-chalk construction. You know, I'm not going stars and scrubs or something like that. I'm playing a little bit more balanced. But I love Daniel Berger this week. I think he's a great play. Just everyone else in the world knows that as well. Going down to Patrick Reed, guys, I don't want to tell you not to play Patrick Reed, but don't play Patrick Reed. You know, I'd feel bad if he goes out and wins the damn golf tournament, but that's not going to happen. The guy hasn't been able to practice for a few weeks. His game before he went down to the shutdown was horrible. You know, had a few missed cuts. He wasn't gaining on approach either for his last 3 events. So Patrick Reed, guys, you know, he's one of my favorite golfers in the world. Most people hate Patrick Reed. I think he has a desire to win, right? Even if you cheat, right? So it's kind of like the New England way, right? You know, Tom Brady really cares because he goes out and cheats so much. So, and I don't hate Tom Brady either. You know, I'm a Steeler fan. I should hate him, but it's kind of same thing with Patrick Reed, right? Like I love him because he's hated. Go down to Joaquin Neiman, $5,600. I'd play him a lot this week as well. So him, Daniel Berger, we'll say Scotty Shuffler, those are my core plays down low by far. All 3 of them are great ball strikers. Joaquin Neiman hasn't looked great of late, but he's a high birdie or better percentage player, somebody who's sneaky long, actually the 5th longest player in this entire field. So love his off the tee game. Love when he's on with his irons, how good he can be. And at $5,600, you really can't beat that price tag. So last 2 guys I want to go over here. First of all, guys, Sergio, great pick of mine last week, you know, absolutely killed it. Didn't expect him to go out and be top 10 in putting, but that's not going to happen 2 weeks in a row. That'd be like getting hit by lightning twice in the same week, like actually, and not dying. So Sergio Garcia, buddy, you served us well last week, but goodbye. Stuart Sync, not Sergio Sync. That'd be a weird name. $5,200. So I was actually put on to him by DingDan255. So he's somebody who went out, won 33 grand last week. Told me to do a little bit of a deep dive into Stuart Sync. So I did. I went into him a little bit. Obviously has the prerequisite length for a course like East Lake. A solid approach player, has been consistently gaining in that category for the entire year. The real icing on the cake is when I looked at the Bermuda splits. He's slightly better on Bermuda. So while he's not coming in with great form, we haven't seen him finish in the top 10. This guy's won twice this year, right? So definitely underpriced in this field. Shouldn't be in the $5,200 range. Even has a starting stroke to go with it. So don't hate Stuart Sync down low. He'll make a good amount of my lineups, especially in GPPs. Not necessarily in my cash games or my core lineups, but definitely in those formats. We go down to Erik van Rooyen. At the bare minimum, this is completely a form play, right? So he's making my GPP pool. He's not going to make it in my cash lineups. He's not going to be in my big time single entries or anything like that. But somebody who's coming in with great form is definitely on a positive trajectory in terms of his PGA Tour career. So don't hate Erik van Rooyen. Obviously, at $5,000, he gives you a lot of options up top as well. So that's going to be it for going through the player pool there, guys. We're going to go over a few of the questions that you guys have here in chat, and then we're going to discuss some of the game theory for this week. So by far the most important part of this week is going to be constructing your lineups, some of the strategies you can use to make sure your lineup's a little bit different, especially if you're in a GPP contest, right? If you guys are in single entry or cash or something like that, just go ahead and play my my highest projected plays. You know, that's going to be by far the best strategy for those contests. But in GPPs, it's going to be all about being different. So let's hop into Tory J's question. So 10.4K left on DK. Take Spieth or pay down and leave money single entry GPP. So let's hop into it. And we can actually start some of the, whatever you call it, strategy stuff here as well. So you have exactly enough money to pay for Jordan Spieth. So can you actually throw in the chat real quick? If you have anyone else above $9,000, let me know who they are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start answering the question. Go ahead and put that in the chat so that I have a little bit more info for it. So you have $10,400. You need to figure out what to do. A reason why I really like Jordan Spieth is because, first of all, Cameron Smith's a fade, right? I'm not going to be playing Cameron Smith this week. I don't like his skill set fit. If you're going to go down, it would have to be Abraham Answer. Abraham Answer is still close enough to the top. You need to have 3 or 4 guys that finish in that top 5 at the very least this week. So that's why I was asking about the other guys that you have in your lineup. So as long as you have a few other guys up top, I'm going to feel comfortable about playing somebody like Abraham Answer. But if not, Jordan Spieth does become a little bit more important. So let me see if you threw that down in the chat there. I haven't done it yet. So Abraham Answer, by the way. So the reason why I like him so much is, again, he's coming in with such great form. And he's also being a little bit less owned than Jordan Spieth. So I have Jordan Spieth at 17% ownership right now. Abraham Answer at 19% ownership. I think when it comes down to it tomorrow morning, those numbers may be flipped. You know, most people love playing Jordan Spieth. He's by far the most popular golfer, I'd say, in the world. So maybe except for Tiger Woods. I mean, obviously, except for Tiger Woods. But Jordan Spieth, everyone loves to play him. He always comes in higher owned than I project him. Again, a lot of that's just due to public appeal. So I'd go with Abraham Answer. So if you were just playing one lineup, the long roundabout answers, yeah, I'd go down to Answer. Again, they're both starting at -4. You're making sure that you're going to be different in a GPP. But if you're playing in cash, definitely go with Jordan Spieth. Again, he has the higher chance to finish in that top 5. He's just had such an excellent year, has a great skill set fit, loves East Lake. If you don't want to play Abraham Answer, let's say you're adverse to him, you just don't think he's going to have a great week, then go down to Rory Mcilroy, right? Somebody who's starting at -2. I don't love the fact that he's starting so far back. But in terms of skill set fit, he's definitely great for the golf course. He's definitely a horse for this course. Has shown before the potential he has. I mean, winning the FedEx Cup. So that's the answer for you there. Let's go on to Ding Dan here. Reid. So Ding Dan says Reid has to play for the cash. I don't know where you're getting that. I mean, the guy's really well off. He's one of the best earners on the PGA Tour. Definitely doesn't have as many sponsorships as other guys. So maybe that's the angle you're taking there. I think he showed up to hit a golf shot and to withdraw, guys. That's why I'm not playing him. I think that's a legitimate possibility. We saw Daniel Berger do that before at a WGC. There's nothing. There's no rules against that. He could quite literally hit a shot in WD. So he has to play to get a check. I don't necessarily agree with that. Yeah, I don't agree, to be quite honest with you, Ding Dan. Let's go into some of the strategy stuff here. Let's talk about the mid-range here, guys. So last year, in terms of a GPP, We had one guy finish we'll talk about the optimal lineup. Sorry. So let's take a step back. So the optimal lineup last year, obviously had Xander, who started at -7, had a great week, ended up winning the raw stroke score. Had a guy at -3, -3, -2, -1. So, and I believe another guy at -1. So a lot of the guys were in the middle tier of the board. And a lot of guys even at the -1 mark that went out and really made a mark. In terms of DraftKings guys, in terms of scoring this week, it's not going to be about finishing position. It's going to be all about going out, making an absolute crap ton of birdies. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to stay, maybe one guy up top. I'm either going to put Jon Rahm in my lineup. I'm going to put Tony Finau. Perhaps it's DJ or Spieth that I have from up top. And I'm going to live in this 9K and 8K range. So doing so is not only going to give me a lot of guys, I think they're going to be able to put up a big score this week. A lot of guys that model better in terms of my custom modeling. It also makes sure that I'm going to be very unique in terms of a lineup construction. Most people this week are going to try and fit 2 or 3 of the guys up top. Obviously, if you take one of these 13 or 12K guys, you're going to have to take guys in this 10K or 9K range. But they're going to try and jam guys up top and play guys down in this 5K range, which it seems like an optimal strategy at first, but when we take a look at the lineups that did good last year, that was not the case. That was completely the opposite of what was optimal. Last year, a balanced lineup was exactly what ended up cashing. Obviously, the placement points up top, you had to have the winner, you had to have the guy in second place, third place, that kind of thing. And then you had to have the 3 guys that made the most birdies that week. It was a very interesting case study, especially when I went back and looked at the winning lineup. The fact that Dustin Johnson was only the 3rd most optimal play was interesting. He actually didn't crack the optimal lineup because he was a little bit too expensive. All of that very interesting. Something else to mention is that a lot of these guys in the 5K range are going to end up being extremely chalky lineup construction. So guys are going to go down to this 5K range and immediately click in 1 or 2 of these guys. It's the most easy way to construct a lineup this week. I mean, I went and was constructing them by hand. I watched a couple other people do so on streams. And the first thing you do is you go down to the bottom and you click in a few people. You see how much money you have left for your last 3 to 4 picks, and you go ahead and jam some guys at the top. I can just tell you right now that if you do so, you're likely going to be extremely chalky this week. A lot of people are going to start with Berger. They're going to tap in, someone like Joaquin Neiman, somebody like Hideki Matsuyama or Shuffler, and then they're going to round out the rest of their lineup. I challenge you guys to do the opposite, okay? So start with the guys at the top. Pick your stud up top, pick a couple of your mid-tier guys, and then make sure you leave some money on the table picking your guys down low. When you end up picking your cheap guys first, you have much more incentive to spend all of your salary because you're trying to, jam in as many of these stud tier guys as possible. But when you take care of your stud guys first, you have a lot more ability to leave salary on the table, right? So if you're choosing between a Louis Usain, actually, it's fun to really go about choosing between Jason Kokrak and Eric Van Royen, right? So obviously there's a $1,600 difference. If we take a look at how they model this week, it's not going to be very different. Obviously, Jason Kokrak has 2 strokes on him, but at the end of the day, 2 strokes really isn't that much. So Eric Van Royen, you obviously be like, if I want to leave 1,600 on the table, you'd feel very confident about going down to Eric Van Royen. But let's look at the top now. So if you went, let's say, to Tony Finau, let's say he's at 11.8 here, right? And you wanted to spend down, let's say, to somebody like Jordan Spieth. I know it's not exact, or maybe even Cameron Smith's a better example here. $1,700 less, just $100 more in terms of a margin. It's a wildly different play. Obviously, Tony Finau starting at -8, a great skill set fit. Down to somebody like Cameron Smith, who's starting at -5. Sure, that's not a horrible position, but this is the worst golf course on planet Earth for Cameron Smith. So again, I think if you're trying to leave money on the table, you want to make sure you're jamming in the guys you really need in your lineup first and saving that salary with some of the flyers down low. Again, maybe that was a little bit intuitive, but I just wanted to mention that. I just think that's important for you guys to know. Something else I want to mention is we really want to keep an eye out on this whole Patrick Reid situation. I mentioned it before, guys. He could very well withdraw. I haven't seen his interview as of yet today. I don't know if he even met with the media. He got there on Tuesday night, likely played half the practice round today, likely had a range session as well. But that's the only golf that he's played for quite some time. So again, the skill set fit isn't great either. Somebody who's not a great off the tee player, he's hardly positive off the tee. Somebody who gets hot with the irons, but again, he hasn't played in how long. So I don't know how he's going to come in hot with his irons. That's all I've got for this week, guys. That's all we have for this preview. Again, you guys can leave any questions in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. I'll get back to it as soon as I can. Lock tomorrow, I believe, is at 10:30 a.m., maybe 11 a.m. a little bit later than usual because we only have 30 guys in the field. And I believe they're sending them off in twosomes off the first tee. So that's something that I love to see. I hate when we do the threesomes off both tees, the whole shotgun start kind of thing. Just too much going on at the same time. You can't really enjoy all of the golf. So really looking forward to this weekend, guys. I may actually be on site Saturday and Sunday. I have a buddy who lives up in Atlanta, so looking at securing tickets. And if I can, I will be there for the weekend. So perhaps for some showdown stuff, I'll be able to give you guys reports from the course, that kind of thing. But again, I appreciate the viewership. If you guys could like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content, it would really help me out, and I appreciate it. And as always, good luck, and I'll see you guys for next week, where instead of a golf tournament, we're going to be doing some DFS strategy stuff. So again, no golf tournament. The week is off. It's not the Vivint next week. It's the Fortinet Championship. And we'll be back to all the normal content for that. So until then, see ya.